everybody. Welcome. Yes, welcome. Right. This is going to be a great panel today. We have these amazing and esteemed women here. We're going to talk about women in film and the OTT. And for some of those that don't know what OTT means, over the top, right? That's Netflix, Hulu, so anything that does not require a traditional cable modem, okay? But before I do that, I do want to bring up the sponsor here today, Kim, who is on the board of Women in Film.
Thank you. I'm with Alliance for Women in Media. We're an organization that's been around since the 50s. It's a national organization out of DC, and we have affiliates all over the country. What we do is basically empower women in film and entertainment and media. We offer educational programs, networking programs like this where you have a chance to meet wonderful people in the industry. We do a lot of community service. We have an award show that recognizes programming for, by, and about women. And we're a nonprofit, so it's just $50 annually. And our website is awmsocal.org. So thank you again for coming, and thank you for thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, well, to kick it off, just introducing myself and the panel. My name is Denise Maiko, and I am the CEO of a company called Stratus Corp. And what we do is we help enable filmmakers make their content. So we are a collaboration and I'll call it a technology company, and we also help you guys get paid. So once you get those that film up and going, what we do is that we are able to track all that metadata and get you paid. So that's what I do. Now I'm just going to start all the way down at the other side there at the end and come this way. Okay.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Anderson, and I'm a writer for television and film. I've also written plays and books. Somebody mentioned women in film before. I won a Luminous Award for the positive depiction of women in film and television from women in film. I've also gotten awards from the Writers Guild. And some of the shows I worked on were Murphy Brown, Fame, Friday the 13th, the series, I can kill 6 people an hour. Unfortunately, not the people of my choice. And I also wrote on a staff of a show called Carol and Company, starring Carol Burnett, Jeremy Piven, and Richard Kind in their first TV appearances. So I feel like I'm responsible for their careers. I've also got a play coming out called As Good as Gold, which is about women and gender parity in Hollywood. And I have, my first book was Never Kiss a Frog, A Girl's Guide to Creatures from the Dating Swamp. And that's published in 10 countries. And my newest book has been written up in Forbes and USA Weekly and just won an award as the best book on saving money and living well. It's called How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short.
Hey everybody, my name's Tanya Wright. I am an actor, primarily, most recently on a show called Orange is the New Black, and prior to that, 7 seasons on HBO's True Blood. I'm also an author, founder of a hair care line for women with curly hair, like so, called Harriet. And I am also the founder of a new multicultural media company called Right Time 047, where we create brands, multicultural brands for women and girls. And the company right now consists of the 11 screenplays that I've written and the 4 TV pilots and their corresponding books. So I'm excited to be here today. And while we're all talking, I would encourage you all, you know, you all have paid money to be here, right? So I would encourage you all to avail have questions that are relevant to your lives, and it's, you know, we're happy to be here to answer them. Okay?
Thanks, Tanya, and big fan of True Blood.
Me too.
And Tanya's exactly right. You know, this is not here for us to talk. This is here, how can we help you get your project up and give you some wisdom of what we had to go through. So I'm a writer-producer of 25 years. I've worked on 4 different continents, and so I sort of know how it works. But right now the industry is completely changing, and, you know, you have to change and adapt very quickly. I started off as a producer, boots on the ground, and then I turned into a media executive, leading Mark Burnett into Hearst and then MGM, and was an executive there. And now I'm solo, and I do women projects, women-led projects, and stories of impact as well. And I get to work with people that I really love, and one of them is this lovely lady here.
Lovely segue there. My name is Marina Grasic. I've been a film producer for about 15 years. You can see I'm holding my head. I'm very tired, even talking about it. I was a finance attorney before then, so I've produced about 25 movies. I literally just got off the set of one of them about a week ago that was shot in Los Angeles with Glenn Close and Mila Kunis, which I'm quite proud of. And I have about a slate of 20 movies. My company's Oakhurst Entertainment. We're partnered with a management company that represents, I think, the mega A-list talent called Brillstein Entertainment. That's it in a nutshell. As a finance attorney, I was involved in about 200 movies, so I can answer a lot of questions about how the world used to look like before. I think the streaming and the OTT world took over. So I look forward to your questions.
Hi, my name is... Don't mean to step on your toes. Hi, my name is Sandra Lord. I am the founder of Creative Career Strategies and Women Helping Women in Entertainment, as well as Lord Entertainment Group and the Los Angeles Film and TV Meetup. I'm speaking to networking. I'm a networking specialist, expert, as well as a master strategist, which everybody needs in terms of having a plan for their careers and identifying what you don't know that you don't know. I work with Academy, Emmy, VMA, and Cine Award winners. And most of my clients and students say that my approach has been life-changing for them. I teach people to own what they bring to the table without apology. That's it.
Thank you. So what we want to do, what I want to do right now is just take a bit of a poll, just so we understand who we're talking to. So everyone here is a storyteller. How many writers are there? Okay. How many directors? And you can hold your hand the whole time if you're all of them. Okay, and producers, obviously produce your own stuff. Okay. Okay, so that's who we're talking to. Okay, what about actors? Where do the actors go? Yeah, okay, thank you. It's the glasses. Give us a giveaway. Yeah. Okay, we're going to break this down into 3 different sections, and then we're going to have Q&A just to kind of set expectation, because we want to answer all of your questions, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of them. So one of the first thing I'd like to do is just talk to the panel about what do they think the State of the Union is with respect to the OTT. Has it really provided the opportunities, you know, the whole concept being the OTT is all about numbers, it's all about analytics, it's all about micro segments. And I would like to hear from our panel, what do they think? And I'm going to let you guys just jump in. I might pick on you a little bit, but I'm going to pick on Wendy first. Okay.
Yes, I had a feeling.
It's all about numbers. It hasn't really changed, has it, really? The networks were always about numbers as well, except we don't get to see them, unfortunately, too much anymore. The one thing that it does, you know, stop a lot of the times, unfortunately, is that with numbers, you need a big star, or you need a big name, or you need big IP. And to have that, it makes it harder and harder for the independent or the new writer or the struggling writer to get something made. And so how does someone who is a new writer or really hasn't had, you know, the 5-star notoriety that they will eventually get, how do you get there? And that is the big conundrum that has always stayed with this industry. And one of the things I would say to you is you need to partner with someone on your first gig. Like, take a hit and let them help you get up that ladder. If you've got something good and you can partner with a good showrunner or partner with and get a relationship with a good star or a good director, get your first project up. The second one, you'll have a credit, and then you'll keep going and you'll get more and more experience. Unfortunately, when you're after analytics, they're going to want people to have a look and get eyeballs on it, and they're going to want that, unfortunately, to obviously tick their little box on their check.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Can you repeat the question again?
The question is, has the OTT really changed the inequities? If we're talking about women in film, the OTT, or people of color, has it really changed?
Well, I can speak to that from the WGA. As far as TV writing staffs, for instance, in 2017 and 2018, 37% of the TV writing staffs were women. And in 2019, it went up to 39%. So it's gone up a little bit, but the numbers are still really low. And in features, it's even smaller. And I think not only what Wendy said about teaming up with someone is the people that are at Netflix and people like that, they're people with big, big production deals. And so what you want to do is get to a producer or somebody with your project. And the ways to do that, you can enter a contest, become the winner of the Nichols Screenwriting Fellowship. That's a way to get noticed. Or South by Southwest. There are places that writers or filmmakers can go now and produce their own content. And if you get noticed, people will come to you. And I think that's what it's about, is trying to get yourself out there. I know I had a project, How to Beat a Bully, that was optioned 8 times by Hollywood and never made. And finally I decided no more options. And I stopped optioning it. I went out and I raised the money and I made the movie. I had to take a few zeros off the end, but I'm happy to say I raised the money, we made the movie, it's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, and we actually sold 50,000 units of the DVD to Walmart, which is, for a little movie, it's a real coup. But we have to find ways of reinventing ourselves and of getting attention. And then you can go to the bigger companies that do have the deals with the OTT companies.
My own personal perspective, and I was speaking to a writer this weekend about it, it's a gold rush right now. There are more avenues for distribution than ever before, but they are looking for premium content. The good news is I'm in a lot of rooms, I get pitched a lot of projects, and female projects and with female voices, female directors, especially in niche markets, are very exciting to streamers. And I think that this is a shift, it's a sea shift, and I think that new artists can take advantage of that opportunity. But so there are more avenues than ever before, there's more opportunities than ever before. It's about how do you get those opportunities? How can your voice cut through sort of the noise, the clogging and the crowding that's going on right now? And the way to do it is definitely joining forces with someone that has power and has experience and has the relationships. That's definitely the way to do it. But there's more opportunity than ever before. That's the good news. And I think female voices are really being heard. And more so than ever before, I'm hearing even men in a room saying, I think we need a female director for that. I think we need a female writer for that because it's a female story. That's a big sea shift. I've not seen that before. I've not heard that before. I've been hearing that consistently for the last year and a half. So that's the good news. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, OTT. So yes, there are tons more opportunity, tons of distribution, certainly a lot of more opportunities for actors. Absolutely, yes, yes, yes. I've had the great good fortune of obviously being on a show that was the beginning of the crest of this new OTT world, right? Netflix, Orange is the New Black. I remember so well the day I got the call from my agent about this show, and I remember looking down at the breakdown, because, you know, as an actor, you've been doing it for a while, you kind of have an idea what an ABC show is versus an NBC show is versus a Fox show is versus something on cable or HBO. And I remember looking down at this thing, it was like, Netflix. Now, I'm not sure what box to put that in. What does that mean? And we were all like, shit, hell if I know. You know what I mean? Is it streaming? Is it a web series? But it's not on television, so, you know, this was the wild, wild west. This was, you know, obviously about 8 years ago. And I really made my decision based on some very fundamental things. One was that the script was quite extraordinary. The part that I was playing was really, I'd never seen anything like it before on television. The people that were involved, right? Gingy Cohan, Weeds, and Jodie Foster directed the first episode. So I knew that I was going to be challenged in the best way. What I have learned, though, and I've learned a lot, I think, from working alongside some of the most powerful showrunners in this town, from Gingy Cohan to Alan Ball, to the folks at 24, Joel Surnow on 24, Howard Gordon. I've watched them like a hawk. So I would encourage you to take every opportunity you can to watch, learn, ask questions, and listen, and create your own work. You know, I can't really stress this enough. I would say, you know, even so when I came to Los Angeles, it was one of two tracks I could have pursued, right? I could have pursued acting, or I could have pursued writing. I was a Nichols semifinalist. I had all this stuff in terms of writing, and I could have very well pursued that path. Acting was the horse that rode. So you ride the horse that's riding. So okay, I got an acting job, and another one, and another one, and another one on these really great shows. But as a result of writing, I never stopped writing because I knew that there was going to be a time for me, right? And it's now. But you write and you bank, and if you don't, or if you're not a good writer, I would really suggest and encourage you not so much to spend a whole lot of time reaching up to the powerful producer, because I can assure you they've got their other shows. I can assure you that the writers on their team have other shows that they're also being pitched to. I would encourage you to reach across to your friends, and to band together and to make great things, and then after you've made that great thing, make a really loud noise about it. Because he or she who owns her audience wins the game. And let them come to you. These people have got 1,000,001 people knocking on their door, Mother, may I, can I, and your project can be the greatest project in the history of the world. But there's so many other factors that come into play here. And after I was a semifinalist at Nichols, I signed with a very fancy literary agent. I couldn't get her on the phone. So I decided, and I thought that I had made it, right? Very fancy woman, very powerful. And I said, well, I could spend my time trying to get her on the phone, or I can make the damn thing myself. And I did that. And it was difficult, but it was empowering. And I would really encourage you all to go that route. And if you don't write, find writers. Band together, reach across, and don't spend so much time trying to reach up. They'll find you. Just make it great and be loud about it.
Okay, I grew up from the accent. I grew up in the Caribbean amongst powerful women. And I was taught never to go out with my hands out. I was taught to go out strong, really, really strong. And I agree with what Marina said about teaming up with other people who have made some strides. And then, Tanya, what you said about creating your own content. But teaming up with people, how do you get to those people? That's the question that I have found that most people have asked me. How do I get to the powers that be? As Tanya says, you should not be reached. You need to know where you are, where you are at any given moment. Because if you think you're here and you're not, you're just setting yourself up for a fall. But if you know where you are, you know what level you can reach. And when you do reach, you have all your ducks in a row, you have all your T's crossed, all your I's dotted, so when you do make a step forward, you step forward confidently, not apologizing, oh, I don't have this, or I'll send it to you next week. Don't make the step unless you're ready. And I think, from my experience, people are accessible. But do they want what you bring to the table? So you have to identify what you bring to the table, and then identify the people who would be amenable to what you bring to the table, and then have a plan to pursue them. Does that make sense? So you have to tap into your network. The network is very important. If you don't have a network, this is what I speak to. If you don't have a network in this town, you have nothing. If you don't know anybody, you have nothing. If you look at J.J. Abrams and the late Gary Marshall, they all use the same people over and over again. If you're going to do a project, who are you going to call? Not Ghostbusters, okay? You're going to call your friends, right? The people in your network, right? That's who you're going to call. So that's what the big guys do. They call the people in their network. So if you want to get into their networks, you got to have something that's relatable. So tap into your network. That's the most important thing you can do for your career. Network and build your circle of connections, because that is cutting away into the red tape. If you don't know people, you have to go through the red tape. If you know people, one phone call could get you a meeting. Does it make sense? Okay.
So then so it's all about the networking and the connections, and it's about getting the experience with someone either kind of across the aisle and or following someone and studying someone. My question then is, how do these guys package themselves up? How will they package themselves in order to, when that opportunity comes from a networking opportunity, what is the package that gets to branding, right?
Well, I want to respond to something that you said. You have to be talented. You know, you have to be. There's that. Okay. Let's start with, you have to have something that people want to buy, right? Like I can't tell you, first of all, I don't accept anything that's unsolicited, so it has to come through an attorney, an agent, a manager, right? Right? Yeah. But you know, I read just like everyone else for the most part, and I read magazines and newspapers and articles, and I'm looking for something that's sparking my imagination and something that's interesting to me. So you're absolutely right. I mean, you have to know your own talent. I can't tell you how many times I sit with a writer who wants to be a director of his own project. It is an exhausting experience to say, I love your script, but I can't have you as a director. It's a very difficult conversation to have. And you have to be prepared for a very long road if you are always insisting on, if you're a good writer, you know, it's going to take a long time for you to direct your own projects. Or if you're a really good director, like I have something where there's someone that's a really great director, but he shouldn't be writing. You know, and it's a very hard conversation because he's a very talented person. So know your own strengths, know your own weaknesses, and the way to understand that is to listen to your peers or listen to groups of people that sort of say, I think you're a great writer, or I think you have a real talent as a director, and go out and prove that, right? So there's so many different avenues right now to prove your talent, whether it's through social media, whether it's writing a book, writing a script, doing a short film. You know, do something that is your calling card. I think that's what you're referring to. And the calling card is what's going to be important to then work, to go talk to people and create a network. A network without talent is rather useless unless you just want a job as an assistant. So again, yes, unfortunately, hate to tell you. But so I would think, you know your own strengths, know your own weaknesses, know your talent. If you have talent, believe in yourself. I love to tell the story of Christina Hodson, who was my assistant, and then I promoted her to be the head of development at my company. Now, Christina Hodson is the hottest writer in Hollywood, bar none. And how did she do it? She moved from New York. She moved from New York to Los Angeles. She didn't use her network. She had quite a big network, but she wrote scripts. She got on the blacklist. She had one blacklist script. She had another blacklist script. She was very bright, but she did the hard work, right? She sat in the room in front of a computer and created something. And then that got her a lot of attention. She did her first movie. She went on to write Bumblebee. Now she's doing Batgirl. I don't know. She's doing everything in town. So this is how it works. It doesn't happen overnight, right? You have to put in the work. You have to put in the time. You have to create, show your talent. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
And just,
Believe that you have the talent. Believe that you have the talent.
But you must also have it.
yes. Yeah.
Believe.
And everything you said, yes. Plus this little thing called resilience.
Yes.
You have to keep going. You have to keep writing. You have to write that script probably more times than you would care to write. You will be, I'm an actor, right? And I've been on some very fancy shows. I can tell you there have been hundreds, and that's with an S at the end, folks. Hear it clear and plain, hundreds that I didn't get. Hundreds. But you keep going. You keep going. You're devastated. I'll allow myself some devastation for 2.5 seconds, and then I got to get up again.
Yeah.
You know, I just do. And so that piece is like, because there are lots of really talented people, and they may even have a network. But if you're going to let the first no stop you, if you're going to let the 15th no stop you, if you're going to let the 99th no stop you, then it's going to be tough. And this is going to be kind of a hateful, kind of miserable process. But the persistence and the resilience, and then pivoting along the way, like listen to people who have done this before, right? You know, I talk to young people all the time. They ask me blah, 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 and I'll give them advice. And then I'll talk to them again. And then they didn't actually do the thing that I told them that I think that they should do. And that's like, hey, you wasted my time. Now I'm a little bit frustrated with you. Because if you really want to do this, you'd be doing everything you have to do to help yourself. Because I'm telling you, it's 100% of the time. If you are doing everything you can to help yourself over and over and over and over again and making a loud noise about it, people will come to help you. They just will. It's like the law of the land. But you have to be doing that. You have to be getting better. You have to be improving. And you just have to. It's just a nonstop part of your business, part of your personal development. So that, that's just consistent. You have to do that.
So
If I
Tanya,
may add to this, the resiliency, I give my clients 24 hours to feel sorry for themselves. And after that, get off that stuff,
Yes.
And if you know what you bring to the table, if you know and you know and you know what you bring to the table, you should not let rejection define your day or define who you are. Because if everybody in this town knew what would be a hit, we would have a hit every time with movies and music and stuff like that. But sometimes you have a sleeper and sometimes you have a dud. And people say, oh my goodness, I didn't expect that this made only a few $1 million when we expected what. Nobody really knows exactly what's going to be a major hit. So when they're telling you you suck, and if you suck, you suck. But if you know you don't suck, just dust it off and move on. And don't let anyone define for you who you are. You just cannot let that happen. When you know who you are and what you bring to the table authentically, you will fight for your stuff. And it's your job to change other people's minds about you or your project. And that's what I teach my students. Resiliency is so important, but that helps when you know what to bring to the
so
table.
how many hours because I'm thinking Malcolm Gladwell, I don't know if you guys, Malcolm Gladwell said pretty much you could master anything. If you want to be good at something, you need 5,000 hours to put your time in. So 5,000, is it 10? 10,000 hours.
As long as it takes.
As long as it takes. That was going to be punchline. Okay.
As long as it
takes. Okay. Well, that was my question. How, just individually, I'm just kind of curious. How many, in order for you guys to see the success that where you say, okay, I broke the barrier there. Estimate how long. So it's not necessarily years, but I want to go hours, because hours work, if you only do something part-time, and I don't know if you guys are all dedicated full-time to your craft.
Never give it up.
Do you do this full-time? Are you 24/7?
Passion, I love it.
And you do it 24/7? This is what you do? What was that? Yeah. And, I'm sorry? It has to be, so it's your passion, but how many hours I'm kind of curious, from these folks up here, how many hours do you think it has taken for you to get to the point where you're like, okay, I am successful?
Well, I think there's different time ranges for different people. I don't think there's a rule. I mean, the first screenplay that I ever wrote, people told me I'd never get an agent, I'd never get anybody to look at it. CAA called me, they wanted to package it. Billy Crystal wanted to do it. Unfortunately, at the time, he was not very popular. But, and finally, my movie did get made 20 years afterwards. I mean, and if you look at if you look at a lot of the Academy Award winners, Dallas, 40 took like 20 years. So there is no time limit. I don't think you spend the time that you need to spend on each project, you get it out, and while you're waiting, you write something new. If you have a passion to do this, you keep doing it, and I don't think there's a specific timetable. I've had some successes, I've had some disappointments, but that's the nature of the business, that's the nature of life. And you just have to, if you have good work, keep getting it out there. And it's also a matter of, some people might be right for it, other people might not be. It doesn't mean that it's not a good project, it just might not be right for the people that you've gotten it to. It only takes one. Mm-hmm. It's like even Harry Potter. That was turned down by about 80 publishers until one person took it. The same thing with Chicken Soup for the Soul. It was turned down by everyone. So I can't put a time limit on it. I've just kept working, and when things didn't work one way, I would turn around and do something differently. And it's just you keep going out there and doing what you have to do.
Yeah, well, I would agree. I don't know that there's a set number of hours. I would say that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and if you keep getting the same note from other people about the thing you keep doing over and over again, and you're not getting success, one way to decrease the number of hours is to listen to the note, right? And make the change so that you can pivot. Pivoting and listening will help you, if it really resonates as true to the story or whatever, that will help you decrease the number of hours so that you're not just continuing to, I believe in myself, but if 20 people around you, 20 people who are established in the industry and you want to listen to the advice and what they have to say, because they're only trying to make you better. But if you're so sort of hard-headed about the way you're going to do it, listen to really smart people. The first screenplay that I ever wrote, I was like, I don't know if it's any good. I wrote it in 8 days, and that's like crazy. And I put it in the drawer for a while, and I gave it to the friend of mine who doesn't like anything. He's a snob. He doesn't like anything. He's really tough. And I said, well, if I can get it past Stephen, I think, I think at least I'm on the right track. But I listened to Stephen's notes because he's someone who I value and respect his ear and his knowledge and his sort of expertise in the workplace. Because sometimes we're here with our stuff. Listen to people. And pivot as needed, and that may help to decrease the number of hours and time that you're actually putting into something.
When Malcolm Gladwell wrote The Tipping Point, he was referring to, Bill Gates or a basketball player and someone who really has a very defined skill set to get to the top of their game. What we do is not rocket science. It's what I'll say. It's there's definitely learned behaviour. There's definitely relationships, and then there's opportunity and luck. And so what I would say to you, work smarter. If you're going to pitch someone, look at who they are, look what they like, make sure you're pitching the right person and that they're going to actually like the material that you're doing to actually cut your chances of getting something made. And then I'd also say, it's not about really as I said, the hours that we're doing, is about sometimes you have to put something down and then just keep going, exactly what you said. And then sometimes when you're in a pitch, someone says, oh, you know what, we're not looking for this, we're looking for that. And you just happen to have it in your pocket because you had it there. And it's about timing. It's about the zeitgeist. Things can change in a second. And when that wave comes, you're the first person there because you've done the work. So just keep going.
Yes.
So looking for other resources to help us. Lots of unions, guilds, association. How many people are here associated with a union? Okay. And like what unions? Like DJ? SAG.
TV Academy.
Okay. Okay. So the question is, what do you guys think, well, I should say, are they helping our audience here progress? And if so, what are they doing? And then also, what could they be doing more of?
Well, I can answer that for the Writers Guild because several months ago there was an issue where all the WGA members had to fire their agents. And I will say that the WGA then stepped up with all different kinds of programs that writers could use to contact producers and studios by themselves. They have portals now that you can submit material from. They have a television memo that goes out once a week. They have a feature memo that goes out once a week. I'd love to ask the producers here if they look at those memos or if they accept direct pitches from those portals from the WGA.
I'm with the PGA, and I've never seen those. So I don't know how they send it out, because the PGA is certainly not sending it out.
Not getting them.
Okay, well, I'll have to talk to the WGA about that.
And that's another great point. Like, what's the interoperability of all these unions, guilds, and associations? How can they work better together, or are they just one-dimensional, very insular into their own?
Well, I can, I guess, speak to the Screen Actors Guild. In answer to your question, I don't know if it's the union's job to help their members become more skilled. I think it's the union's job to make sure that we're safe on set. I think it's the union's job to make sure that those contracts that we're getting, that someone is looking out for residuals, which is the lifeblood of an actor. I think it's the union's job to do those sort of really very specific, tangible things for the workforce. I think it is up to the actor to invest the time and energy into their craft. Obviously being an actor is not always the most inexpensive career to pursue, right? There's the headshots, and there's, all the running around and the clothes and the classes, stay in class, folks, the classes. And so, but also having said that, I know that the SAG Foundation has this really great, wonderful things for members, things about social media, things to enhance the career. But I don't necessarily know that it's, I think that the job of a labor union to train, to help people know how to act. Yeah.
I will say with respect to the collective, collective bargaining unions, the difference is, I think, between SAG and the Writers Guild is the Writers Guild is taking aggressive moves against agencies, and as a result, if they're asking their membership to get rid of their agents and relying on their lawyers and managers or others to get them jobs, that created a void. So as a result, if they're from a collective bargaining standpoint making very aggressive moves, they have to fill that void somehow, and they're doing that with their membership by saying that they're going to be supportive in other ways. They're going to help them not need an agent, which I, by the way, disagree with. I think writers do need their agents.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
not.
and this is just a personal point of view, but I understand why the Writers Guild is being aggressive. I would just say in terms of creating community and creating support, I think all creatives need that support. However you get it. If it's writing groups or whatever creates community, whatever creates support and membership, even if it's, to advance your own projects, it's also for the emotional support, right? Because it's a very emotional process trying to manifest something creative. So I think that especially a lot of people come here without their families and they don't have that kind of network and support. I think that these organizations can really act as a very good surrogate for that, but also to create, connections and the networks. It's very hard to do that, when you're alone. So I think they're filling that void, and even just to go to screenings and to connect with others, I think it's just vital and important. And that's how you kind of keep your ear to the ground in terms of what's being pitched, what's being out there. So use those organizations as a platform to help you. That's what I would advise.
Yeah, and there's also,
Doing it because producers and agents were packaging stuff and leaving.
it's a packaging thing, but we
Yeah.
don't have to get into the politics
Yeah.
of it now. But there's also an organization, since we're mostly women here, called 50/50 by 2020, and that's an organization that's trying to get more women into not just Hollywood jobs, but other jobs, and their goal is 50/50 by 2020. And there's other organizations that are giving classes and all kinds of things for women, and you should just check all the resources that are there. And the fact that you've come here today obviously shows that you're interested in increasing your network.
Tanya, my understanding is that 98% of SAG is not working. But the SAG Foundation does a lot of stuff, as you said. But isn't SAG also kind of reducing all the rules for digital media to make it easier for, yeah? Did I hit on something?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I've got to say, I kind of really like the Writers Guild. They're kind of badasses as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think this SAG needs to take a look at that and say, and
Absolutely.
especially as it relates to new media.
Yeah.
Netflix just signed a new media contract with the Screen Actors Guild. I saw a regular contract with the Screen Actors Guild. Prior to that, it was a new media. Because we had no idea how successful this was going to be. And as a result, residuals and such were under a new media contract, which is very different from a network. So and I'm happy to say it took a long time, but, this is a really sensitive point, to be frank. That it took a long time, but now the OTTs are under, well, at least I know Netflix is now under a standard Screen Actors Guild television contract. And so, that's something that I feel like absolutely the union needs to be fighting for on behalf of its members, more so than about training. Because if you're getting the right training and you're talented and you're doing all the things and you're doing all the things and you're doing them again and again and you're pivoting and you're improving, you'll and you're networking, you'll eventually get there. It may take longer than you like. You know, I'm a very impatient person. That's why I named my company Right Time, because I have to tell myself all the time, be patient. You know, I want it yesterday, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. But I work that way. I work like a fiend. Like no one could outwork me. I work like a fiend. I don't have a husband, I don't have kids, so like this is like my, and this thing won't work, you know. But yeah, you know, that is like, ooh, that's a big one. And I'm happy that Netflix is now under a standard SAG contract, because when we were doing Orange, it was New Media, which is very different numbers.
Absolutely.
Great. I mean, I just love what you said, just outwork. I mean, I think that's really the common theme I've heard from every single one of these women up here is like, you got to outwork the next person sitting next to you, because it's just like anything else. Like if you're an athlete, if you're, someone said, well, maybe it was, well, it might have been Malcolm Gladwell, but I do think you have to put in the time, put in the hours, and outwork. You just got to do it until it happens. So, the one question, because we're going to go into QA, but I just have one question for each of you to answer, and it is about. I somewhat asked the question. Maybe it wasn't clear enough, but in terms of identifying or packaging, I'm going to call it packaging because the word branding shows up in the. I'm going to call it the syllabus here, but it shows up, and I want to know from each of you. When did you find, or what did each one of you find in terms of what is the story that you are telling not only yourself, but that you're telling others about your brand, your package? Because each one of you is its own unique brand and your own package. You have a product, you have a service that you provide. Just looking to see, number one, can you tell us what it is? And then number two is, how long did it take you guys to find that? What was your journey in doing that? Go ahead, start. Okay, Sandra, you're first.
I'm not sure I understand the question, actually.
Well, what I'm trying to understand is like you package yourself. You make it. You're saying that you're a networker. You are engaging. You're a specialist in that. How long did it take you to get to understanding that was your, if you want to call it calling, that's the thing that you do, that is your brand, that is your package? How long did that take you to do and to figure that out?
That's an interesting question, because when I look back at what I did in the Caribbean, I grew up in the Caribbean as a celebrity, still considered one when I go back. But I've been in the business since I was 3 years old. And when I look back at what I was doing over there, I didn't know it was networking or strategy. But I was doing that since I was a kid. Now I realize, oh my goodness, it's all the stuff I was doing before. So I think it's been a lifetime. And maybe in the last 20 years, I started the Hollywood Networking Breakfast. I'm the founder of that. And
so you were 2?
I was an embryo when I started. I always tell people I was an embryo when I started. So I started the networking breakfast because when I first came to California, I would go to events and I'd watch people. I like to observe. I'd watch people passing each other by, and then you could see they look at the name tag and kind of decided in that moment whether you were important or not. And I thought that was so stupid, you know, because I don't feel you should discount anybody, because you never know who's going to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So I observed that and I thought people are discounting people. That's wrong. That's how I was raised. So I decided to do the Hollywood Networking Breakfast to encompass everyone, to include everybody. And in so doing, I started really further developing the brand of networking and strategy. And I remember what I wanted to do, I was dating a top producer in town at the time, and I said to him, I want to do a networking event, a breakfast, and I want to do it at the studio. And even he laughed. Well, later on he apologized. But everybody around me said, oh, please, you should do it at a restaurant. I'm like, no. I was strategically planning what I wanted to do because Ron Meyer Nina Jacobson, all of those people who've spoken for me, they would not want to see their names in print at El Torito. And even then, I knew that. So I was strategizing, okay, I'm going to go to a studio, and nobody thought I would get it. And I spent that afternoon I went to Paramount, came back with a contract, but I did strategize my meeting. And so I think the strategy took a foothold from the Hollywood Breakfast over 20 years ago. Although it was building on things I had done, I would get my government, I would use my celebrity to get the government to do stuff for underprivileged people, kids and stuff like that. I had a group called Tomorrow's Children. I did community stuff. So I saw the importance of celebrity, and I saw the importance of strategy. So everything that I do now is about strategy. I strategize every meeting, every major phone call, everything, and I get the results that I want. So, I think maybe 20 years building on what I did when I was a kid. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Okay. Next.
Oh, I'm next. Oh, no. I've wanted to produce since I was probably 15 years old. I sort of knew that that's what I wanted to do. And there are different paths to being a producer, right? You can come at it as a writer. You can come at it as a director. I wanted, because I recognized that I was a woman, I said I did not want to I wanted to take a professional path, so I went to law school. So for me, the path was a little complicated, but I ended up as, an attorney in the entertainment space, and then I did entertainment finance, and then I represented a lot of producers, and I started to understand how to put deals together. So that was my first foray into it, and then I ran a couple of companies. Sydney Kimmel Entertainment was a company I built. So that started my road to becoming a producer. So it's 25 movies later, but it took a while to get there. I don't want to name the amount of time, but it took a long time. But you get there.
I guess I come from just a different way of thinking sometimes. I believe a little bit more that everyone is born with some God-given skills, and it's a shame for you to hide them, and that you should be trying to really filter what exactly your skill is. And sometimes you don't know, and it takes a little while for you to get there. But I will say that if you can ask yourself a question, which I always ask myself, is, if I had all the money in the world and I didn't need to work, would I still be doing what I'm doing, which is the art of living? And the answer is yes. And then the next question is, if I didn't have to worry about paying my rent and the fear didn't stop me, what would I be doing? And so that question for me is when I left my job close to 5 years ago as a media executive and decided to go out on my own. And it's taken quite a few years, and when you don't have a big studio behind you and a big name behind you, all you have is your relationships and your reputation. And so try never ever, to screw someone over. Walk away from something if you're not making that project better. And that will be remembered, just in the way that you acted in something. And then what that does for me, it builds the relationships that maybe it's not the right time for this person and this project, but one time it'll come, and it has. It always comes back to you. So it's taken a 25 to 30 year journey for me to do what I love, and I'm still at it, and I'll still be at it until the day I die, but I'm really happy.
Amen.
Joy, joy, joy.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with the ladies here. Yeah, everyone, and Sandra. I think it is a cumulative process. Once you get some clarity, and it doesn't happen on day one. Once you get some clarity about what your purpose is, and then whatever your brand is sort of just saying what your purpose is in a way. It wasn't anything that I was necessarily thinking about. I remember when I was 10 years old, someone asked me what it was I wanted to be when I grew up. And I've always been a creative child. Like, I could in the 5th grade, I would my family, we were just too poor to buy a Christmas tree, but I had created some fanciful story about this Christmas tree and this family and this blah, 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 blah. And I got the Best Writer Award for the 5th grade. And then my mother, she was like, oh, none of this is true. I was like, I know, I'm not lying, but this is like, in my mind, it was that specific. And I was able to put that on paper and arrange those letters and those words and those sentences in a way that would elicit some feeling. Like, it wasn't anything that I was thinking about doing. It was something that when I did it, ooh, that feels good, that feels right. And I decided very early on in my life as a kid that I was going to do the thing that made me happy. And that was always very important to me. And doing the thing that makes you happy is oftentimes not the easiest thing in the world. It can be a lonely journey. I'm the only person, in my family is sort of a creative person. And the way that I think about things or even problems, the way that I approach them is not like, like I don't avoid the elephant in the room, okay? I go to the elephant and say, elephant, what do you have to talk to me about? Because I know that the good stuff is in that elephant. I'm not afraid to go to the elephant. And I remember very well, it was really one day at school, I was in English class, and we were talking about life, and I remember my mind trailing off, and I said, I'm going to do what's going to make me happy in my life, and I don't really care what anybody thinks about it. I didn't really have the support of my family when I came out here with $300 in my pocket. My mother wanted me to stay in New York and go to journalism school and make money, and I tried that for a while. Right after I graduated from college, I worked at the New York Times. Right, if you want to be a journalist, you go work at the best, and so I did that, and it was 9 months, and I was like, this is not the happy, and so I was committed to that in my life. Sometimes I look back at my career as an actor. There's times where I made a shitload of money. There are times where I made none at all. But you know what? I've always been a person who's always, I sort of lived in the middle. I never lived above my means, or I didn't really even have any interest in that. And when I was 10 years old, someone asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, and I don't even know what I understood, what I was being asked. But I just said, I wanted to inspire people. And so what that has looked like in my life is being a creative person who makes things that are going to enable people to live healthier, happier lives in the stories that I tell, in the way that I tell them, in the sort of approaches that, the roles that I play. I've been really very fortunate to play great roles in great projects with really smart people. And particularly with Orange is the New Black, something that was going to help people to maybe look at the transgender issue in a different way, in a really accessible way, in a really kind and compassionate and thoughtful way that was very, 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 very important to me. And so the brand is inspiring. It's positive, it's strong, and hopefully it reverberates in the things that I choose as an actor, and certainly the things that I write as a creative.
Well, I was always a storyteller. However, when I got into high school and college, the emphasis was on academics, and my mother wanted me to meet a doctor. I met them, I just didn't marry them, but I did get a couple degrees in biology and physiology. And then when I was out working, I said, I don't want to do this, I want to be a star. So I quit my job, sold my car, sold my furniture, sold my boyfriend, didn't get much for him, and I moved to New York to become a star. And I got into a Broadway show, and I did stand-up. I used to go on back-to-back with another guy who didn't do too well, Jerry Seinfeld. But then I came out here and I started writing, and that's really when I started coming into my own. I sold my first script to Paramount, I sold one to Fox, but just because you sell a script doesn't mean it's going to get made. A lot of things happen in the meantime. And so I started doing TV. And basically, I've always had a lot of confidence in my work, more so than necessarily in the people who are reading it. But I think as I got older, and now I realize you have to become more entrepreneurial. You have to do a little bit of everything. I still consider myself first and foremost a writer and a storyteller, and that's what I love to do. But in writing some books, then I've created IP with my plays and my books. But my favorite things still are writing screenplays. It takes a lot more money and a lot more people to get a screenplay made than it does. It's easier to get a book out, obviously, these days. Get one out, have it be a huge success, and then they'll come to you. But I consider myself first and foremost a writer and a storyteller, and it's a journey. And there is an issue in Hollywood, unfortunately. It's not just a question of sexism, and women are coming more to the fore, but ageism. And if you're a person over 40, it's sometimes harder to get in the doors. It's not even... there's discrimination. You hear about other groups that are in inclusion now with people of color or LGBTQ, but ageism is something that hasn't truly been addressed yet. And I just feel, hey, if Hollywood were fair, I'd be the richest woman in Hollywood. But anyway, I'm still out there, and I'm just still knocking on doors and putting my work out and doing what I have to do. And I'm going to keep doing it. So that's where I am.
Well, I want to open the floor up a little bit to, there was one, yeah, I know she was first, and then you're going to go second, yeah.
I just wanted to touch on what you were saying about...
Project, please.
You were talking about how if something isn't growing or going the way it should be, to walk away. So I've recently... walked away from a project I was working on for 2 years, and it was a TV show that I still am very passionate about, but just the relationship it wasn't going anywhere, like you said. How do you then deal with that, and how do you, I'm just so new to this, and it was the first time I'd ever worked. I spent 2 years on it, and it just wasn't going anywhere, and I guess, and something needed to shift, so I said, you know what, I'm just going to take a step back, work on some other solo projects rather than a creative partnership, which can be quite tough having two people steering one wheel. What do you do with that? Do you just leave it? Does it, do you come back to it later? Do you need to have a contract that says, hey, you pitch it for a year, and if it doesn't work out, I'll pitch it? What do you do in that kind of situation? Because it sounds like you've had some experience in that.
I think everyone on this table has had that experience, especially in the room. So the first thing is take a breath, because it's hard to get the wind taken out of your sails. And I am a big believer in surrender, and sometimes you just have to just let it go. I've been in a position as a writer where I've broken up with a writing partner, and that 2 years of work has just gone nowhere. And that is really, really tough. And you can sometimes financially buy someone out or get it back, and there are ways to do that if you're really fighting for it. My big thing is let it breathe for a bit, get onto something else, because that'll get your excitement back again. And then when you're ready and you've got your strength, have a look at it through a different lens, because I've gone to older projects and I've done a rewrite and made it more modern. I've maybe attached a different, where it was a man-driven, I made it into a woman-driven, or vice versa. And sometimes it'll come to you when it's ready. So, yes, it's hard. And sometimes and I'll give you an example. Okay, I worked on a big unscripted show where we pitched this music show and everyone was saying no, and it was really simple. It was a spinning chair, and it was called The Voice. And it ended up being the biggest successful, #1 show, and still is. And it was just that one thing of like, oh, it's not just American Idol, it's not just X Factor, it's a spinning chair. What's your spinning chair in each of your projects? And you have to sort of have that, and it could be a director's take, it could be a star's take, or it could be just flipping something different. Let it breathe, it'll come to you, get on the next thing. Just keep going, because I will say it will turn, and I've had things that have come back after 2 or 3 years, and I was like, now I know why I just needed to live that. But it is hard, and I'm really sorry, but it's so part of the journey and the process. As Tanya said, just embrace it and keep going.
Thank you.
No, it's a pleasure. Keep going.
Hello, my name is Simon Zell. I'm producing a docu-series in Silicon Valley called Tech in Black and White. It's a 3-part docu-series that deals with diversity, inclusion, and relatability. And so, my relationship with Netflix, I wanted an executive producer to be a woman because I'm dealing with diversity and inclusion. And so I'm fighting with, I'm going to Amazon Studios now because I can't. I want what I'm telling the story about diversity and inclusion in front of the camera, I want it to be behind the camera. And so they're saying it doesn't make a difference. The people that's hired should be, the people who can deliver. So how, I came to this panel, I came from San Francisco for AFM. I came directly just for this panel about women in media to see how can you change that? How can you get, I'm just a first-time producer. I got my own money. I sold properties to do this film out of Atlanta. I sold 3 properties to fund my own film. I got I got Facebook, I got Twitter, I got Microsoft, I got all these companies that love my story. But then when it comes to the networks, they're not going to listen to you in terms of if you want, I want women to be executive producers, and I want women to be behind the camera. I want people of color to be behind the camera because I'm telling this story on Silicon Valley, and it's it don't make a difference. So, from how do you change that? How can I change that? How can I change that?
Don't know what to do.
Are you looking for a partner?
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for? I'm sorry.
I need a partner to change it that's bigger than me that could have a conversation. How do you, if you don't have that power, because your voice isn't respected if you haven't did anything in Hollywood. But if you have something great that people want, I have a show that they want, but in terms of changing the dynamics that's behind the scenes, how do you, because I wanted Eric Alexander to be the person who would be doing my film for me, and it's we have a person that could do, so how do you change the dynamics behind it? You have to work, as hard as you work, as hard as you guys have worked to get that respect. How do you change that? How do you change that narrative of power?
I'll just say with the streamers, they are so busy and so inundated right now, and I know that a good friend of mine, at Amazon, tells me a lot of the intel of what's going on, and one of the biggest, problems is that they are so overpitched. And so how do you stand out? And the best way for you to do it is turn yourself into a producer and package it and make it turnkey for them. Walk in with your showrunner, walk in with your executive producer, walk in with as many different attachments as you can, and then walk into them and they're like, oh, okay, I get that. And that brings energy to a project, and if it's not for them, it'll go to, somewhere else.
Are you thinking of financing it independently and then bringing it to a streamer? I'm trying to understand where you're at.
I was going to deliver, I have my first episode with Tristan Walker. He just sold his company Bevel to, so I would go with my first episode and just let them see. They know the proof of concept. We just did our first episode on Afrotech in Oakland. It was real huge. So they see around the country that we have something that's good. But just leveraging the conversation between who I want versus who they want. That's the thing.
Are you having an issue with they're trying to impose people on you? Is that the conversation that you're having?
Because it's who I want to choose to go behind the scenes to work versus, because I wanted to match the story. I want when you see, people of color, And women at Facebook, I'm doing something about women in Facebook and Google. I want some people, I want women behind the scenes doing it as well. And I have a team in San Francisco, it's all white males. My guy that's the director here in LA is all white male. You know, like I got across the country, it's all white males. Like, that's on my team. So I want to change the dynamic. How do I change the dynamic?
I would just say hiring and recruit women. Or talk to female, get a female producer.
That's it. Like, that's it.
Maybe sometimes just because you have a female producer doesn't mean you're going to have an all-female crew or you're going to have, I think you have to recruit them. And you have to, sometimes it starts with who you're producing it with, right? And if you're already working with a production service company.
Me, I'm just producing it. So because I don't have a history, I did the story for 1 year. Like I did all of the work myself as a first-time producer. So I don't have the strength to move the needle like that. So do I partner with someone that's huge in the industry and pass the torch to them and let them navigate it, or how does it work?
I think you have a lot of choices on your hand. It sounds like you have enough to do a pilot episode, which is very powerful because you can show proof of concept. And then it might give you a lot more leverage to say, look, I envision this like this. If you want the series, you may have some more negotiating power if it's something that people want, right? So that might be an approach. I mean, there's different approaches, partnering up with someone, but it sounds like you have some resources that will allow you to leverage some decision making, and that leverage is incredibly important. So it can be joining forces with someone who is female, if that's what you want, or a person of color, if that's also what you want, in addition to yourself, obviously. But recruit. I mean, you know, if you're partnered right now with a male production service company and they only have male employees, get a different partner. There's a ton of all female or primarily female companies that really are promoting that in the industry. It's about doing the research and the homework to find out who they are. I think you'll have a lot of success.
Yeah, I came here for that. So thank
Yeah.
you.
What's your social media like? How many followers do you have?
Me,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly. I'm really not in social media. I got all over across the board. I have someone that handles that for me. But for our company, it's more with me personally. I don't know if I've got.
It would be good to know that, because have you ever thought of maybe doing it yourself? I mean,
I wanted to impact the globe, like across like I can't do it on myself, and I'm doing Black Girls Code. This is like one of the biggest companies in terms of like young women learning how to code around the country. So for me to just do it myself, it won't impact the globe the way I want it to impact the globe. So there's no way for me to do it myself. It has to be. I'm interviewing Dr. Dre. He did Beats by Dre.
I actually have an idea for you. You come and talk to me. I have someone for you.
Just to piggyback off what you're doing, I have an award-winning short, and I've been using that as proof of concept. So I've been going to events like this, and networking and recruiting, and seeing where the home is for the project. So my question is to all you brilliant ladies up there, and thank you for being here. Do you have any other suggestions for the filmmakers in the room? How to try to get our project moved ahead?
don't you handle some of the stuff?
I'm on the creation side, and
Okay.
I'm on the creation side. Yeah.
Do you have an agent?
Yes, I do. And I have a lawyer. So if there's someone that shows interest, then we, will send it to them.
Right.
I'm just starting, it's really my first film. I wrote, produced, direct, and star in it. We've won 45 awards at 23 festivals, and I'm just doing AFM and this now, and we're just getting going. So I do have an agent, yeah.
What is your project? TV? Film? What is it?
I would like it to be a TV series, and it's about your dreams, how far would you go to achieve it, women empowerment. Quickly, I make a deal with the handsome devil as a frustrated LA actress, and I time travel back to 1940s Hollywood. But things start to unravel, and in 100 years, Hollywood hasn't really changed that much. We still have the casting couch, we have ageism, we have, so many different things that the interesting thing between fame and celebrity and living a successful life and it's about empowering women and men to go for their dreams. So, yeah, that's what it's called, The Admire.
Yep, right here.
Yeah, I have kind of a logistical question. When I started out way back when, there was no internet, so I just made phone calls. That's how I created and maintained contacts. And now I am on a series that's ending, and in the last year I've been trying to reconnect with old contacts and create new ones again. And I'm finding kind of a roadblock that maybe the telephone isn't what people are using as much. I don't know whether I should contact them on social media or contact them over the phone or emails. I mean, I remember when emails started, and that was like the least ideal way to contact somebody. And I always preferred calling on the phone. So I'm wondering what your experience is and what you all prefer in terms of when you're doing both, making new contacts and, you know, calling up people you work, refreshing.
I prefer the phone. I'm a phone person. You can hear my tone. You can hear my excitement. You can hear if I'm upset. You can hear everything. You know, so I like the phone. You know exactly where you stand with me when I'm on the phone. But I also follow up with an email. So I use both, because sometimes you may send an email and it may end up in spam, and then you agonize over the person didn't respond, you get mad, but sometimes it just ended up in spam, they never got it. So I prefer the phone. That's my personal means of contact. I find a lot of people who like to use emails are afraid of the phone. They feel that they can get some kind of, it's a false confidence. Yes.
You're afraid you're not.
Yes, absolutely. But I like to know, within seconds, I know exactly where I stand with a phone call. Never lies. So, you know, so I prefer that stuff. But also what I have found, and it's one of the things that I teach to my clients, is when you're reaching back to people, this is a town, it's a beautiful town, but it's also a town of rejection. It's also a town of, it condescends, you know, people don't want to be bothered if you have nothing going on. And people say to me, I brought this person, I knew them 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and I asked them to go to lunch, and I said, why? My question is always, why? Well, I just want to talk to them. Well, this is a busy person, you just want to talk to them. You know, people don't have time for that stuff. So unless you're doing something where you're relevant and you have common ground and you can say, give concrete reason why you want to take up this person's time as to somebody else, then they probably will not hear from them, because except if something's happening with you. So I would say really when you reach out, figure out exactly what it is you want to say to make yourself as interesting, but never lie. I always tell people don't lie. Don't ever lie, because when you lie, that could haunt you and it could discredit everything you ever said before and even after. So say what you're doing, present it confidently, make it exciting, be passionate, and you know most times people respond to that because they figure you're going somewhere, you're doing stuff. And don't hit people up for a job after 20 years.
Real quick, I know there's lots of other questions, and I know that Tanya wants to say one thing. So here's what's going to happen. Tanya is going to say her thing. Then I'm going to end it, and then you guys, if these women are still willing to chat, I'm getting the hand signals that we're way over. So we'll do that. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you so much to these women that have just. But I do want to, Tanya, I know you want to say something.
Well, just actually, I think this is going to answer a couple of the questions that I heard. Specifically, you should find a sales rep and find out. You have to do the research about like what your goal is, and then who to target to satisfy the goal. So I would say you have a completed film. You probably need a sales rep who believes in your vision, your story, is going to go out and, you know, if you don't have an agent, go out and help you to do that. Oh, I see. I see.
They're not interested, but if you like meet someone at Lifetime or your agent, you know, submits to a company that's doing female projects, or you know, the target, which you're correct in saying, then you have a better shot. So you guys have been around for a while, so I just wanted to glean maybe something I haven't thought about.
And also, I've had great success just emailing people. I think if you can write a really strong, compelling email, put something in the subject line that's going to, first of all, kind of catch them, and ooh, what's that? That's intriguing. Because people get so many emails. You know what I mean? I know I don't open up half the things I get. I'll look at the subject line, who it's from, and it's going to get deleted if it's not, but subject line, make it really strong, and then in your letter, make it like this is, be very clear, be very strong, and you get pretty good response with email. If it's a really strong, compelling offer.
Thank you.
And social media is great too, reaching out to people.
Photos coming up here, so this one's going to take a photo.